Hey guys, welcome back. So now getting back into X-Force, which not only takes us deeper into the missions which we've seen, but it's like the missions, the decisions made within the missions, and how they affect these characters. It's really made X-Force like this true page turner, or in the case of some, a real screen swiper. So let's break this down. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top, so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so one of the things I want to mention as we get into this, like one of the things you guys have been asking me, which is a pretty frequent question for a number of different characters, but a lot of you have been asking things like, where's Dokken? And mainly since Powers of 10 and House of X. And we've seen him pop up like here and there since, which personally I feel like is a must because who doesn't want to see Dokken? And fingers crossed we'll get a bit more of James Hudson Jr., who's pretty much been MIA since X-Men Blue and Venomized. So just as a forewarning, if and when James Hudson Jr. shows up, it's very likely that we'll resuscitate his playlist. But where we jump in with X-Force, Logan and Dokken, they're playing a bit of claw-popping Russian roulette with Honey Badger spinning the bottle to of course see who it lands on, which in this case is Dokken. And it's like, even though you got a healing factor and a whole resurrection program in case anything goes wrong, even still it sucks to be him in this moment. But even with that, at this time within this lounge within Krakoa that's called the Lagoon, Jean uses her telepathy from the other side of the room, and she asks Logan like, why don't you do something nice with him sometimes? And Logan lets her know like he considers this bonding, because of course he would. But even with seeing this, Jean, who's having a drink with Scott, she expresses to him how working with X-Force, how for her it's just blurred that line in between what's right and what's wrong. And we had got a recent example of this on one of X-Force's most recent missions when they went to visit the Republic of Terra Verde, and Beast had asked her to kill these telephoronic creatures who were once human but converted themselves through organic technology, and Beast was like, yeah, that's true, but we still gotta take them out because their creation wasn't much different from a Prime Sentinel, which was his explanation for justifying those means. But even still, it's tough for Jean because executing orders like that and then justifying it by saying it's for the protection of mutant kind, it's really thrown off her moral compass and caused her to fall back a bit. And also, like, shout out to that apocalypse glass she's drinking from. But also, like, on that topic, like this whole spot called the Lagoon, like it is popping. Dazzler's performing, Nightcrawler's front row and teleporting back and forth from the bar. Multiple Man is everywhere taking shots, while Sebastian Shaw, who's down at the bottom, like in spite of his powers, his body refuses to absorb whatever he was drinking. But also during this time when we get a brief look into this conversation between Domino and Sage, which off the bat lets us know that she's just been resurrected after her most recent mission with Colossus, but also while she's here and Sage asks her if she's still having nightmares from the torture when her skin grafts were stolen back in South Korea, and Domino lets her know that that part of her memory is gone. And this could really mean one of two things, which is one, she requested for these memories not to be restored, which I kind of doubt because when she died, she asked Colossus to make sure that she remembered because they both went through some traumatizing experiences and they came to the agreement that it's making them who they are, which could also mean on the other hand that Charles Xavier made the decision for her not to remember South Korea, which also leads into the idea of what else or who else is he keeping information from. But this conversation is cut pretty short when Black Tom Cassidy begins to bug out, which is something we've kind of seen begin from the assassination of Charles Xavier, where it very much appears like he's losing himself within that responsibility of being connected to Krakoa, to where his position in security is also like Krakoa is his nervous system. But in addition, it's also felt like it's been something deeper than that. And here at the Lagoon, we see it send him on the fritz. And when it does, it sparks this brawl. Sage goes to help break up the fight, more or less. But of course, while she's breaking up the fight, Logan, Honey Badger, and Dokken, they of course jump in because it's a family bonding opportunity. But before Logan can necessarily jump in, Beast pulls him out to let him know that X-Force has some unfinished business in Terra Verde. But on their way out there, and minus Jean of course, but on their way out there, Logan and Domino get into the conversation of Domino being new and feeling better, and it's almost like he already knows. Her memories from South Korea are just not there. And it almost sparks a bit of an argument because recently we talked about how Logan feels about trauma and what it does to people, and though he doesn't fully agree with people going through things over and over again, he's definitely not an advocate for people just erasing memories and just choosing what they want or don't want, which possibly has to do with him having his taken at one point in time, but he definitely believes that what we go through, it sculpts our character. And Domino doesn't confirm or deny whether it was her choice, but she does let him know that there's a part of her that believes that she's happier because what she doesn't remember. And Logan doesn't mind that she feels that way, but he lets her know that forgetting doesn't fix you. But right in the middle of this conversation, situation, Kid Omega tries to walk through the Krakoan door and he busts his nose just like we seen Kitty Pryde do. And initially it's thought to be a malfunction with the door, but Logan quickly figures out that that's not the case when he stabs through and discovers that something is blocking it from the other side, which as it turns out on the other side of that door, a number of bodies have been caked up, which had possibly been an attack from the Telephoronic group which X-Force encountered recently in their last trip to Terra Verde. And so to get through, Kid Omega just blasts a pathway right through it, which then allows them to do a deeper investigation of what exactly happened, which also leads them to find that their president has been killed as well. But also with them finding the president's body here, and also all the vines wrapped around the president's manor, having Mayan glyphs written all over them, this also leads them to believe that the source of this is all coming from the temple. And from the view outside, it very much seems to be an accurate assumption, with these same vines covering the city all the way up to the temple. But also along this, I want you guys to keep in mind that on this mission, one, Jean's not there, but also with X-Force doing this investigation, Beast is the only person at the point sending intel for this mission. And Kid Omega kind of picks this up and he mentions, you know, we're doing this without Jean, without Sage, and he toys a bit with the idea of Beast alone not being sufficient, and kind of as a response to Beast telling Kid Omega he knows his glasses got broken trying to walk through the door, so he doesn't know if he's reporting everything really accurate, but it also leads into the idea of Beast intentionally leaving them out. But as X-Force heads over to the temple, which I'm pretty sure is the same temple that they had found the president's son in after discovering he staged his own kidnapping, and he had used the people and resources from Telephoronics and formed the terrorist group Muerte Verde, which means Green Death, only to strong-arm his father into believing into his cause and what he believed to be a greater purpose. But while they approach the temple of Ya'ax, I believe it is, and as they get closer, we see they're followed by some kind of cat-like figure, which appears to be hostile initially, but then it just goes inside the temple. And this cat very much looks like it's a product of Telephoronics, which at first had me thinking like, what is that, a Hellcat? But then I was like, nah, that cat just looked like hell. But it goes inside the entrance, and it's here where we jump back to Black Tom, because after grabbing these details that they have here in Terra Verde, Beast goes to get Black Tom Cassidy to assist them with what they found, because he also believes that there's a deeper connection to what's going on with Black Tom Cassidy and the possible bigger issue that they have in Terra Verde. Because with Black Tom, for a while, with him it seemed like he's been overworked, because with him physically being Krakoa's nervous system / alarm system, like on the surface it seems like his job is literally driving him crazy, and with Beast literally dragging Black Tom from here to throw him into the field to theoretically help him out, we also notice that this has pulled Beast away from the point, which is really where he needs to be, because X-Force that quick has run into trouble. And we find this out with Kid Omega, who's calling for Beast over the comms, but with doing so there's no response. Beast isn't there, Sage isn't there, which makes it even more of a risk, because with Sage at least being there, and not only just to process data, but also to send backup if needed. And from the look on Quentin's face, backup is very much needed. And as it turns out, he was trying to tell Beast that Terra Verde isn't a hostile country, but rather it's an angry god. And there's something within this temple which just yanked them in that they're gonna need assistance with ASAP. But though we're kind of left hanging here, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the president's son Hadwin, who we had found out not long ago was not only using the Telephoronic technology, like the dude from the old Hair Club for Men commercials, like I'm not just the president of the company, I'm a member. But when we found out he was using that technology on himself and trying to persuade his father not to give up on it by telling his dad it was tied to a higher purpose, it very much seems like that whole message is tied to this temple. But of course, with X-Force capturing him and then Beast when nobody was looking, he kind of fiddled with the symbiosis of Hadwin and his Telephoronic enhancements with the intention of turning him into a vegetable, which did keep his father from finding out his involvement, and it also allowed his father to continue with signing the treaty with Krakoa. But if you guys remember, everything still kind of went left when dude actually turned into a vegetable, which not only makes him the prime suspect for what's going on within this temple, but it also opens the possibility for him being onto something with his talks of a connection to a Mayan deity, which I feel like its connection to everything going on with Black Tom is much more than a coincidence, especially with Hadwin's treason also starting around the same time that Black Tom has kind of been losing it. But that'll do it for this one, guys. So real quick, just want to give a shout out to all the Patreons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who wants more information on how to become a Patreon, I got a link down below that'll take you to patreon.com/DopeSpill. But let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments below, because personally I'm hoping for some deep Mayan Irish connection that'll link Black Tom Cassidy to all of this, but who knows, we'll just have to wait and see. But in the meantime, let me know your thoughts below and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.